Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah, alhamdulillah. Everybody say hi to Panda. Okay, she's my kitty. She's my baby. She got bored and decided to come listen to my exciting lecture. Okay. Oh, I love her so much. Okay, so now this is one of the major, and more well-known problems of capitalism. Okay, and this is something that, it's just so obvious, and its effects are happening all around us. But again, most people really aren't paying attention to its implications. Okay, capitalism requires profit as much as it requires, unemployment. I talked about this. Capitalism, if there was not unemployment, capitalism would not exist. Okay. It requires, constant bailouts because by its nature, it creates its own collapses. All right. It requires profit. If there were not profit, there would not be investment, and again, it would cease to exist. But then it doesn't care how it gets its profit, But the subject that I'm really getting into here is because it intends to perpetuate, but how would there be infinite production and infinite profit on a finite planet? It's not possible. And so in fact, so much of the basics that humans need, has long been monopolized and turned into something that, really doesn't necessarily create profit. And so capitalism constantly has to invent some kind of criminality to keep itself going, I've talked about what capitalism does in other countries, honestly, U.S. corporations, for decades have gone all over the world. If you look at every war and every coup that the U.S. was behind, and there are at least 50 coups, at least, and dozens of wars, all of them were capitalism seeking to overthrow a socialist government, meaning that the government was going to use their resources, do things their way to take care of their people. Capitalism doesn't allow it, so that's what the CIA is for. That's what the perpetual military, the U.S. has over 850 military bases outside of the U.S. Why? Why they either go in and have like a perpetual occupation like Afghanistan, you're going on, 40 years now. Or they install someone who is going to cooperate with U.S. economic interests, which means screwing their own people and allowing U.S. corporations access to their markets and their resources, And that's just one example. But really, if you look in the news, you see everything. I talked about how these major water and beverage suppliers, have gone into places and contracted like for the entire public water supply. The public water supply, okay? They've gone into places like like Argentina, and attempted to buy an entire underground aquifer, okay? Understand what an aquifer is, okay? In the U.S., there are aquifers that are under the ground of a quarter or a third of the entire country, okay? Huge. You're talking about massive underground water reserves. And you've got corporations like Nestle and Coca-Cola and Budweiser that want to own it, all right? But they literally, when they can no longer expand outward, and you see this as basically what the U.S. has been doing to itself the last 40 years, there weren't as many profit opportunities outside because basically everything had already been taken over. And so, but they have to keep seeking profits, and so they turn inward against the people, okay? And so they began the big union busting, okay? The United States used to have between 30 and 40% of workers in a union, and now it's down around 5%. Okay, that's because of 30 years of union busting. Actually making unions illegal. Okay, yeah, tell me, you libertarians, tell me about freedom. Okay, there's no freedom. Okay, neoliberalism is libertarianism. Okay, and yeah, they ended people's freedom to be in a union for their own damn survival, okay? And that's why wages in the U.S. suck. And really compared to Europe, which is more socialized, okay? Europe is not socialist, but they are more socialized, okay? You know, you've got de facto minimum wage in the food industry in a place like Denmark where it's, 18 or 20 bucks an hour for working at a McDonald's. You don't have that in the U.S. We're fighting just to get past $7.25 an hour. But what they've done is they've taken over public enterprises, public institutions, okay? Like the big move in privatizing prisons. I talked about this. Prisons used to be owned by city, county, state, and federal government. But beginning in the late 80s, then there was a big plan, and this is what they did, to sell off existing jails and prisons and contract any new expanding prisons with corporations, okay, and then passing laws to pack people in prison on trivialities like, marijuana possession or, whatever, being a little too radical at a protest, throw you in jail, The universities, what they've done over recent decades, it's gotten ridiculously expensive, but they have almost done away with tenured professorship, okay? Gone to adjunct, short-term contract, teachers, which is very harmful to the quality of education, but it hurts. A professor used to make a decent living. Now you've got these contracted teachers out hustling, working double time, and honestly by themselves. If they don't have a spouse sharing the bills with them, they can't live, okay? I mean, the examples really can't be counted, but when you see then, okay, capitalizing on catastrophes, okay, hurricanes, not sending help, but sending in corporations with, public money to provide services, clean things up, rebuild things, okay, but really not helping the people the way human beings actually would, okay? And we've seen that in Katrina, in Florida, in Puerto Rico, in so many places. Literally, capitalism is just taking the planet, grinding it up into things that it can sell, and just leaving the wreckage behind, okay? And it's doing that to our society also. This is something that, one professor once said that capitalism will eat democracy. And that's exactly what we see. It's because they can't allow the people to be free anymore because the people are under so much pressure that more and more and more and more people want this system overthrown. And that's where you get into the serious danger of fascism, extreme authoritarianism, okay? It's because they reach a point where they can't allow the people to be free. And so in the same way that they would go into, 50 or 60 countries, 70 countries around the world, overthrow their government and install a dictator, they will do the same thing here. That's what you're seeing, okay? Rig the election against a people's candidate like Bernie Sanders so that you can get a corporate stooge and a tyrant like Donald Trump or Joe Biden, okay? It's really, ridiculous. But again, because they can't continue earning infinite profit, which is what they want in a finite world, and they've already reached the limit, okay, on so many things, and so they have to create opportunities, okay, and I'm going to talk about some of these to just keep leeching, but literally they're ruining our lives. They're extracting our lives, okay, to turn it into profit. Okay, so I'm going to get back, inshallah, and I'll see where my kitty is. Okay, assalamu alaikum.